This place not for poor and dirty people like you.
The first time they threw him out, it happened so fast that the glass doors didn't even finish closing before his back hit the cold air outside. 1 second, he was standing under warm golden lights, breathing in that clean, expensive scent of polished floors and perfume. The next, his feet left the ground and his whole body flew forward like he'd been launched. His palms shot out instinctively, reaching for anything air, balance, dignity, while his heart hammered a warning into his ribs. People gasped. A woman near the entrance clutched her shopping bag tighter, stepping back like he was contagious. A man in a tailored suit frowned as if his afternoon had been stained. Someone whispered, "What's wrong with him?" And behind it all, clear as a slap, came the manager's voice, sharp, disgusted, final. "Throw him out." 2 security guards stood on either side of the doorway like twin gates of judgment, hands still extended from the push, their faces set in that bored confidence people wear when they're sure they're right. The manager hovered behind them, pointing as if her finger could erase him from the world. The man's body finally found gravity. He landed hard, sliding on the polished stone outside the entrance, his elbow scraping, his knee slamming down. Pain flashed bright, but the humiliation burned brighter. He stayed there for a second, breathing hard, eyes wide, not with fear, but with the stunned disbelief of someone who knows the truth and cannot understand why the world insists on a lie. He pushed himself up slowly. His clothes were dirty, wrinkled, stained in places like he'd slept in them. His hair was slightly unkempt. His shoes were scuffed. Not homeless, not insane, just not polished, not approved, not the kind of man the store wanted standing under their lights. His gaze flicked to the manager. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. He expected something human in her face. Even anger would have been easier. But she looked at him like he was a problem she'd finally solved. "Are you done?" she snapped. "Move away from the entrance. Move 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 away from the entrance." He swallowed, still catching his breath. "Ma'am, I just need—" "You need to leave," she cut in, voice loud enough for everyone to hear, loud enough to make sure the crowd understood she was in control. "This is a luxury store. You can't come in here looking like that and disturbing customers." "I'm not disturbing anyone," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I only came to—" One of the guards stepped forward, chest puffed, hands ready. The man's jaw tightened. He could have shouted. He could have pulled out his phone and ended it in seconds. He could have made one call and watched these people scramble like ants in rain. But he didn't. Not yet. Because part of him, the part that had learned hard lessons, wanted to see how deep the rot went when nobody thought you mattered. He stood and brushed the dirt from his shirt, slow and calm, as the crowd watched like it was free entertainment. "Please," he said, voice low, controlled. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to speak to someone inside." The manager laughed once, not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. "Speak to who? The CEO?" she said, eyes narrowing with that smug cruelty people get when they think they're above you. "Don't waste my time." The man blinked. "Actually," he said, "yes." The guard snorted. A few people in the crowd chuckled. The manager's smile widened like she'd been handed a gift. "Oh, this is what we're doing now?" she said loudly. "We're pretending?" "I'm not pretending," he replied. She leaned forward slightly, voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Then tell me your name." He hesitated for the first time. Not because he was afraid, because saying it here, like this dirty, bruised, on the ground, felt like giving his power away to people who didn't deserve it, but he said it anyway. "Damian Cole." The manager stared for half a second, then burst out laughing, throwing her head back like she couldn't contain it. "Damian Cole?" she repeated, still laughing. "Right." She turned to the guards. Get him away from the entrance. If he comes back, call the police." One of the guards grabbed Damian's arm. Damian didn't pull away. He simply looked at the man's hand on his sleeve, then back at his face. "You don't have to do this," Damian said quietly. The guard hesitated, just for a second, because there was something in Damian's eyes, something tired, heavy, and sharp. It wasn't the look of a man begging. It was the look of someone deciding. But the guard's pride won. He tightened his grip. Damian stepped away and raised his palms, giving them what they wanted. Compliance. Not surrender, just patience. "Fine," he said. "I'll stand here, but I'm not leaving." The manager's smile vanished. "You're not leaving?" she said, offended like his stubbornness was an insult to her authority. "You think you can just—" "I know I can," Damian said. The manager opened her mouth to snap again, but a young cashier inside the store, barely in her 20s, looked up from behind the counter. Her eyes landed on Damian's face. Something about it struck her, a familiarity she couldn't place. She frowned, staring harder. Damian noticed her. He held her gaze for a moment, then looked away. The cashier's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her phone under the counter. The manager didn't see. She was too busy enjoying her little show, basking in the attention of the crowd and the power of being obeyed. "Listen," she said to Damian, stepping close enough that only he could hear now, her voice colder. "You can't come in here looking like that. You scare people. You make us look bad." Damian's eyes narrowed. "I make you look bad," he repeated softly. "Yes," she said without shame. "And I won't allow it." He stared at her, and in that stare was a question she didn't understand yet. A question that wasn't spoken, but was loud anyway. What happens when your power is tested? Before she could speak again, a sleek black car pulled up near the entrance. Not a taxi, not a random visitor. The kind of car that belonged to someone important. The crowd's attention shifted. The manager straightened her blazer automatically, smoothing it like she was preparing to be judged by someone higher. A man stepped out of the car wearing a suit so sharp it looked like it could cut glass. He was tall, composed, walking with purpose. In his hand was a slim tablet and a folder embossed with the store's logo. His name was Victor Reyes, regional director. The kind of person the manager tried to impress with flawless numbers and fake smiles. Victor walked toward the entrance, but his eyes landed on Damian standing outside, dirty and bruised. Victor stopped. For a moment, the air changed, like a room going quiet when someone important enters. "Damian?" Victor said, voice suddenly careful. The manager froze. Damian turned slowly and met Victor's gaze. Victor's face paled. The manager's brain scrambled, searching for a way this could still make sense. Because in her world, people like Damian didn't get greeted like that. "Sir," Victor said quickly, stepping forward. "What happened?" The manager let out a nervous laugh, stepping in immediately. "Oh, Victor, you're here great. We had a situation," she said, forcing cheer into her voice. This man was trying to create disturbance, claiming he's... Victor held up a hand without looking at her. His eyes didn't leave Damian. "Are you hurt?" Victor asked. Damian's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm fine." Victor's throat moved as he swallowed. Then he turned his head toward the manager, and the look in his eyes was no longer polite. "What did you do?" Victor asked. The manager blinked rapidly. "I handled it," she said. "I did my job. He came in like he didn't belong. Customers were uncomfortable." Victor stared at her as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Customers were uncomfortable," Victor repeated slowly. "So you threw him out." The manager tried to smile again. "We have standards." Victor's voice dropped. "Do you know who he is?" The manager's confidence flickered. "Yes. He said his name is Damian Cole. But obviously," Victor's jaw tightened. "That is Damian Cole. Has will-to-do's note." The crowd stopped breathing. The manager's face drained of color so fast it was like someone pulled the plug. Damian said nothing. Victor continued. each word landing like a hammer. He is the majority owner. He is the CEO. The manager's mouth opened. No sound came out. One of the guards stepped back like he'd touched fire. The other guard's hands slowly dropped to his sides. The crowd's whispers turned into a wave. No way. That's him? Why does he look like that? The manager's eyes darted from Victor to Damian to the guards, desperately searching for someone to tell her this was a prank, that she wasn't about to lose everything in front of strangers. Damian took a slow breath. "Victor," he said calmly, "don't." Victor's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, don't defend me," Damian said. "Not yet." Victor shut his mouth, confused but obedient. Damian turned to the manager. She was trembling now. Her voice came out thin. I didn't know," she stammered. "Sir, I swear, I didn't know. If I knew—" Damian's gaze was steady, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "That's the point," he said quietly. The manager swallowed hard. "Please, I didn't mean—" "You meant exactly what you did," Damian replied. "You meant to humiliate me. You meant to show Izumvuri-1 you had power." Tears pooled in her eyes. "No, yes," Damian said softly. "You did." Victor cleared his throat as if holding back anger. "Sir, we can take this inside." Damian shook his head. "No," he said. "Let them see." He turned to the guards. "You two," he said, voice still calm. "Why did you throw me out?" One guard opened his mouth, then shut it. His eyes flickered to the manager, like he hoped she'd save him. Damian waited. The other guard finally spoke, voice rough. "We were told to. We were told to." Damian nodded slowly. "And you didn't question it?" The guard's face tightened. We thought you were causing trouble because of how I looked," Damian said. No one answered. Damian turned back to the manager. "How many times have you done this?" he asked. Her lips trembled. How many times have you looked at someone and decided they didn't deserve respect?" Damian's voice didn't rise, but it cut deeper than shouting. "How many times have you used your position to make someone feel small?" The manager's eyes filled completely. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Damian stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked past her into the store. Inside, everything was spotless. Everything was expensive. Everything was beautiful. And yet, standing at the doorway, Damian had never felt more disgusted. Because the ugliest thing in that building wasn't dirt on his clothes. It was the way people treated others when they thought nobody important was watching. Damian stepped toward the entrance. The guards moved instinctively, then stopped themselves, like their bodies remembered power, but their minds now feared it. Damian walked past them and into the store. The air inside was warm and bright. Customers pretended not to stare, but every eye followed him. The manager trailed behind, wiping at her face, trying to salvage a shred of professionalism. Victor stayed close, speaking quickly in a whisper. "Sir, we should get you cleaned up. We can close the store temporarily. Security can." Damian raised a hand. "I'm not here to be cleaned up," he murmured. "I'm here to see." Victor swallowed. "See what?" Damian's eyes moved over the staff. The cashier who'd tried to call someone earlier looked like she was about to cry, relief and fear mixed together. Damian walked straight to her. "What's your name?" he asked. She jumped slightly. "My name is Lila," she said softly. "How long have you worked here, Lila?" Damian asked. 2 years, she answered. Damian nodded. "And how are you treated?" Lila's eyes flicked to the manager, then back to Damian. Her throat moved. She hesitated. Damian waited. Patient. Still. Lila finally whispered. "It depends." "On what?" Damian asked gently. "On who's watching," she said. Something tightened in Damian's chest. He turned to Victor. "Get me the complaint log," he said. Victor blinked. "Sir?" "Now," Damian said. Victor immediately tapped on his tablet.
"Yes, sir."
The manager stepped forward, voice shaking with forced helpfulness. "Sir, we can discuss this privately. This is This is very embarrassing. Damian looked at her. For you, he said. Her face crumpled. Damian's voice stayed calm. I didn't come here to ruin you, he said. I came here because I needed to know if the rumors were true. The manager's head snapped up. Rumors? Damian nodded slightly. I've been hearing things, he said, about staff turnover, about customer complaints, about people being treated like they're nothing. Is with B that the sassed. Victor looked down, uncomfortable. Damian's gaze stayed locked on the manager. And I wanted to see if it was the company, he said, or if it was the person running the floor. The manager started sobbing quietly. I can change, she pleaded. I can fix it. Please. Damian inhaled slowly. Then he did something the manager didn't expect. He turned away from her. He addressed the store, his voice carrying without shouting. Everyone, he said, I want you to listen. The room went silent. Damian looked at the employees, first cashiers, floor assistants, cleaners, security people whose faces usually faded into the background for customers. Their eyes were wide, their bodies stiff. I'm not here to scare you, Damian said. I'm here to remind you of something. He paused, letting the silence settle. This store is not built on glass doors and bright lights, he continued. It's built on people, on your hands, your hours, your patience, and no one, no manager, no customer, no uniform, has the right to treat you like you are less than human. The manager's sobbing grew louder. Damian's eyes swept the customers. And for those of you who watched a man get thrown out and said nothing, he said evenly, you should ask yourselves what kind of world you're helping create. A few people looked away, ashamed. Damian turned to Victor. Bring the complaint log, he said again. Victor hurried to comply. Damian turned back to Lila. You called someone earlier, he said softly. Who? Lila swallowed. I called my friend at corporate, she admitted, because I recognized you from the annual video conference. I thought it was you. Damian's expression softened. Thank you, he said. Lila's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry they did that to you. Damian shook his head. Don't apologize for someone else's cruelty, he said. Victor returned moments later, holding out the tablet. Sir, he said, voice tight. There are a lot. And there are a lot. Damian scrolled. The list was longer than it should have been. Reports of humiliation, employees quitting abruptly, customers complaining about rude behavior, several complaints about the manager by name. Damian's jaw clenched. He looked up at the manager. She was shaking so hard she looked like she might collapse. Victor, Damian said, voice low. How long has corporate been seeing this? Victor hesitated. Sir, it's been flagged, he admitted. Damian's eyes sharpened. And? Victor swallowed. They said. She had strong sales numbers, he said quietly. So they didn't want to disrupt the flow. Damian's face hardened. In that moment, the manager wasn't the only problem. The system was. Damian handed the tablet back. Strong sales numbers, he repeated, almost tasting the words like poison. So we ignored cruelty. Victor looked down, ashamed. Damian took a step closer to the manager. Here's what's going to happen, he said. She looked up, desperate, tears streaking her face. I'm suspending you, Damian said, voice even. Effective immediately. Her lips parted. No, please. And there will be an investigation. Damian continued. Not just into you, into anyone who saw those complaints and chose profit over people. Victor stiffened. The manager stumbled backward like she'd been punched. Damian didn't stop. And I want every staff member here, he said, raising his voice slightly so everyone could hear, to receive a raise. Effective today. A gasp rippled through the employees. The manager's mouth fell open. Damian continued. I want new training, new policies, and I want a hotline that goes directly to my office. not filtered through anyone who thinks strong numbers excuse bad behavior. The employees stared at him like he'd just opened a door they didn't know existed. Damian's voice softened again. Because no one should have to beg for respect, he said quietly. No one should have to be important before they're treated like a person. The store stayed silent, stunned. Then, slowly, a cleaner near the back started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears from someone who'd carried too much and never thought it would change. Damian turned and walked toward the back office. Victor followed. "Sir," he whispered urgently, "we need to get you cleaned up. The press. Someone will record." Damian stopped and looked at Victor. "Let them record," he said. "Let the world see what it looks like when a man is treated like nothing." Victor's voice faltered. "But you're the CEO." "The image." Damian's gaze was steady. "This," he said, motioning to his dirty clothes, "is the image." Victor swallowed, speechless. In the back office, Damian finally sat down. His elbow throbbed. His knee ached. His pride still burned. But beneath it all was a strange calm, because he'd seen the truth. He didn't get thrown out because he was dangerous. He got thrown out because he didn't look like money. Damian leaned back and closed his eyes for a second. His mind flashed back to 3 days earlier, why he looked like this in the first place. It hadn't been some dramatic undercover movie plan. It had been reality. He'd flown into town unexpectedly after hearing about a warehouse fire on the outskirts, a supplier issue, an emergency. He'd gone there personally because he didn't trust reports anymore. Not after he'd spent years building a company from a cramped apartment and watching people lie with confidence. At the warehouse, he'd helped move boxes. He'd spoken with workers. He'd stepped in mud and ash. He'd done what needed doing. And when he finished, he drove straight here without thinking, still in the same clothes, still carrying the same dust. Not because he wanted to test anyone, because he forgot what the world looks like when you don't look expensive. Now he remembered. Victor sat across from him, tense. "Sir," he said, voice low, "what do you need from me?" Damian opened his eyes. "Tell me the truth," he said. "How bad is it across our stores?" Victor hesitated. "Sir, there are managers like her," he admitted. "Not all, but enough." Damian nodded slowly. "And why haven't we fixed it?" he asked. Victor swallowed. "Because the numbers look good," he repeated softly, as if ashamed to say it again. Damian stared at him. "Do you know why I built this company?" he asked. Victor blinked. To innovate? To disrupt retail?" "No," Damian said, voice firm. "I built it because I grew up watching my mother get treated like she was invisible." Victor's eyes widened. Damian's voice grew quieter. "She cleaned houses," he said, "rich homes. And she came back every day, with her back hurting and her pride bruised, not because of the work, because of the way people spoke to her." He opened his official account and posted one sentence. "Today I was thrown out of my own store because I didn't look like I belonged." He paused, then added another. "If you've ever been treated like nothing, I see you, and we're fixing this." Within minutes, the post exploded. People shared their stories. Employees from other stores spoke out. Customers admitted how they'd looked away in similar moments. The world, hungry for truth, latched onto it like a flame. And for the first time in a long time, Damian felt like he wasn't just running a company. He was doing what he promised himself he'd do. That evening, Damian returned home and finally changed his clothes. He stood in front of the mirror, looking at his bruised elbow, his scraped knee. He touched the bruise gently and exhaled. Then he smiled, not because it was funny, but because something in him had shifted. They threw him out. They thought they were protecting their standards. But what they really did was expose the truth. And now, everyone was watching. Not the luxury store, not the manager, not the guards. Everyone was watching him, waiting to see if a billionaire would do what most people with power never do. Use it to lift others. Damian picked up his phone again and typed a final message to his team. Tomorrow morning, emergency meeting. Every manager, every region, no excuses. He hit send. Then he sat down, leaned back, and closed his eyes. Because the story that started with a man flying through the air wasn't really about humiliation. It was about what happens when the world judges you in seconds. And what happens when the person they judged decides to change the whole game. If this story touched you, take a moment to like the video and tell me what it meant to you in the comments. I'd also love to know where you're watching from.